parents or guardian. Under 17 not admitted without parents or guardian. Under 17 not admitted without parents or guardian.
It's only a movie. It's only a movie.
Take my advice. To avoid feigning, keep repeating. It's only a live stream show. It's only a live stream show. Anyway, good evening, fans of fantastic films. Welcome once again to the Drive-In Asylum Late Movie with Sam Panico and me, Bill Van Ryn.
Hey, thanks to Patrick Fisher for sponsoring us this week. We really appreciate it. If you'd like to sponsor us next week, any dollar will do. We'll buy that for $1. You can reach out at groovydoom@gmail.com and make a donation. Thank you very much, though. And your donation helps the show keep going. Welcome to everybody in the chat. Looks like we got a pretty full room full of folks tonight. And we're very excited not only to watch Biohazard, but as you probably know, our interview with Fred Olen Ray with Jen Upton.
Yeah, wow. This is really big for us, I think. I mean, we've had a lot of great people on the show, and Fred is right up there with all of them. And, you know, he's probably the most well-known guest that we've had.
Oh, yeah.
Am I wrong?
I definitely think he is, yeah.
So yeah, it's exciting. Thank you, Fred, for being on the show. Fred's interviews, if you didn't read the caption for the promos I had out there, Fred's show was pre-recorded, or Fred's part of the show rather, was pre-recorded earlier this week with me, Sam, and Jennifer Upton. And we're going to be broadcasting that in just a few minutes after we get some preliminaries out of the way. I don't know. Is there anything you wanted to say before we go into the interview, Sam?
I'm super excited about this interview. I got to ask a lot of the questions I wanted, but there's a million questions that you could ask. I know hopefully a lot of them will be in the book when it comes out, but you know, when you think about it, how many movies he's made, how many people he's connected with. And also, I think you'll hear in the interview, we always talk about like people that just randomly name drop names, and he name dropped some names that like blew our minds of like who he had just gone to breakfast with. And it wasn't like in a name droppy way. It was like just, oh yeah, I just had breakfast with him, and it was just like totally chill. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah. So yeah, it was really a big deal for me to talk to Fred. I'm sure you feel the same way.
Oh yeah.
And thanks to Jennifer for helping set it up too. Jennifer Upton, who you all know from the program. She's not live with us tonight either, but she is here in video spirit.
And we're allowed to say it now. She edited Fred's book that's coming out. We weren't sure for a while we were allowed to say it, but she did. And that's what she does for a living. So I'm really excited to see how the book comes out. And within, she said there's so much stuff in it. So it's going to be very exciting. And I love Biohazard. I think it's a really fun movie. I think the main reason I love it is when you see Angelique Pettyjohn with that wacky helmet on, you're like, this is not like any other movies, you know, that I'm gonna see. So pretty rad.
I think we should probably mention that Fred has a book coming out. You made reference to it, but I don't think we actually announced it, at least to the people who are watching the show. Hopefully you know already. his novel or novel. He wrote a novel. No, this is an autobiography, and it's called Hellbound for Hollywood.
Yeah.
And if it's even half as exciting as some of the things he said during the interview, then it is going to be a must read.
Yeah,
He
and it's
really
gonna
did have an amazing life.
Oh,
so far.
it's
not
crazy,
over.
yeah. And it's going to be out via Amazon before the end of the month, looks like. So keep your eyes out for it and for the title when it comes out. I'm going to be definitely buying it because I can't wait to dig into a lot of it. Yeah, I don't know. That's the hardest thing I think you'll see in the interviews. It's like, gosh, like what can I even ask? Because I have so many questions, but all my questions are mostly about Evil Tunes. So they're about like his movies that probably less people care about. So that's
What
okay.
year was Evil Tunes? Do you know?
I think it's 92, I want to say. It has a mainstream appearance of porn star Madison in it. That's why I noticed it. She's on the box cover for it,
Wow.
getting attacked by a cartoon wolf, and it has David Carradine in it too. So it's pretty up there. His dad probably would have been in it, or he's still alive too.
I remember her, Madison.
Yeah,
Do you think her sister was Kennedy?
they look very similar, and I had crushes on both of them, as you probably know. Mean looking goth girls. Who figured?
Yeah.
I've told the story before where my girlfriend in college found my stash of adult magazines, and she threw my one that Madison was on the cover, Hustler, into a burning barrel, and I reached back out in to get it and burned my hands. It was worth it, 100% worth it. I like reached in, got it, threw it out in the woods, and I could have set the whole woods on fire, but I think it was worth it.
You couldn't have just bought another one?
It was like a year old. Like, so, I mean, I probably could get it. But you know what? Like buying old adult magazines always a dicey proposition, right?
I think I know what you mean.
Yeah. Now today I just download it. Like what are people I'm sure there's a few folks younger on this, like, wait, paper? You got magazines? Yes.
Yeah. When did that happen?
When did that happen? Yeah. So it's fun though. Yeah, Evil Ten is a cool movie. And it's got some for the budget, it's got some fun animation and stuff in it. It's pretty rad. But yeah, there's a lot of Fred's movies I like. I was trying to that's one of the questions you'll see where we were put on the spot of like what's your favorite of his films? And I'm like, man,
Oh God.
yeah, I know. So
You had great responses. I think he liked your picks for
it was a pressure though, because like when somebody has that many films, also he talks about Christmas films, and really if we could get David Dakota on the show, I have so many questions about his Christmas movies. I've watched all of them. I love them. And a talking cat. I could ask a billion questions about those. So maybe that's something in the future to look forward to.
David Dakota. Oh, I love it.
Yeah. I have so many questions about Bigfoot versus DB Cooper to ask. It's something.
You know what a genius I think he is because of the way he titles his movies so that they're at the top of the list for all your choices.
I love a talking cat because Santa Claus is Mrs. Claus is played by Cynthia Rothrock, the martial arts actress. And I'm like, okay, like, it's just like such weird casting. Also from Pittsburgh. Well, she lived in Pittsburgh for a while because that's where all the Rothrock Kung Fu studios, they're her ex-husband's studios.
Yeah.
So yeah, tell us in the chat what your favorite Fred Olen Ray movie is while we're watching this, and we'll do a poll. Maybe one will be. There's so many though. I don't know if there'll be much lining up. It's rough.
My choices have already been mentioned several times in the chat, so thank you.
My second one has not been mentioned, so yeah. So I'm excited.
Of course it hasn't.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's like. It's one of the ones
deep
I got,
cut,
It's one of the ones that I got for 50 cents from that sale at the AmVets. That I think an old pervert died, like I always say, and it was one of the ones in there.
We do die.
Yeah, I know. It's like his family was like, "What are all these
old
Joe
perverts.
Collins DVDs? Like homework? Who wants this?"
I just saw a post about homework. On Facebook, and
it.
someone had posted something about it, and I was like, "Isn't that movie problematic to
Aren't
the
they
nth
all?
degree.
Everything we love is, Bill. It is.
Yeah.
It's another one of those like private lessons movies where it seems in the 80s it was like, oh yeah, like private lessons is super problematic throughout. But when you watched it when you were young, you were like, yeah, that's what I want to happen. But then
Sylvia Crystal.
yeah, oh yeah,
Wasn't she in Private Lessons?
she was. There's that scene where she tries to have sex with him in the bathtub, and it's really upsetting. Well, not upsetting. It should be upsetting for him. But then you're like, oh, it's Sylvia Crystal. Like, yeah, like why? What's wrong with you, dude? Yeah. The same actor who's in that with her is in there playing with fire with Sybil Danning. So we got to do makeout scenes with both Sylvia Crystal and Sybil Danning within the same year. Come on, dude. What is wrong?
Sometimes life is good.
I mean, for that guy, yeah, I think at that point he probably should have just died. Like, how is your life going to get any? Like, how is it going to get any better? I'm not saying he should have died. I don't want him to die, but I think he could die happy at that point. But
all right. So if this is your first time watching the show, the movie is streaming on Tubi. So at the end of our live segment, we're going to come back on after the interview segment, and we'll talk a little bit more, and then we'll all end the chat and go watch the movie and come back afterwards when it's done for part 2 of the Fred Olen Ray interview. So without further ado, let's do it. Whoops. There we go. Good evening, fans of fantastic films. Welcome to the Drive-In Asylum Late Movie with me, Jennifer Upton, and Sam Panico. And we are just thrilled to be able to welcome one of the legendary figures of Maverick cinema, Fred Olen Ray. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So I have a few questions, Fred. I know you have a new book coming out on the 25th of June.
Yep.
The ebook and the print copy are both dropping on the same day, right?
That's correct.
Great. So on this show tonight, we're doing a watch party for one of your earlier films called BIOHAZARD.
Mhm.
And I heard a rumor that there are some stories about BIOHAZARD in the book.
Yes, that you're correct.
Yes.
You should know.
I wasn't sure if you wanted to go there because I love the stories you tell about Biohazard in this book. And Bill is a huge Aldo Ray fan. So I wonder if you could cherry pick a little bit of the information and just kind of give us a background of what led to the making of this film and how it happened and what was going on in your life at the time, because that stuff is really interesting.
Well, I was always interested in Aldo Ray, even when I lived in Florida. I wanted to make features in Florida, when I was just getting started. I was interested in Aldo Ray because he had been a big star, but now I knew just from, watching independent films that he was more or less available to the low budget film guys. And he was in a movie for a guy named Larry Foldis. And I think it was called Don't Go in the Park, or I don't know what it was. But even I was working for Channel 24 or Channel 35 at this time in Orlando. I was getting ready. I was going to do a movie like, I think it was Alien Dead. At the time it was called It Fell from the Sky. I was working at the TV station and I was thinking about Aldo Ray. And this is not in the book, but I found Larry Foldis. I looked around and it wasn't as easy back then as it is today. I found Larry Foldis finally, and I got him on the phone from the station, from the TV station. And he wanted to sell me Aldo Ray's phone number for $1,000. And I said, I couldn't believe, because I was thinking one filmmaker to another filmmaker. I said, you gotta be kidding me. And I hung up and I thought, I don't ever want to be Larry Foldis. I don't ever want to be like that guy. I mean, it wasn't, but I don't know if it was one movie later that Larry Foldis never appeared again.
Yeah.
I mean, and then I finally saw some of his movies and I understood why. But I was always interested in Aldo and he never left my mind. And once we got to Los Angeles, obviously my career didn't take off for a while, but once it started, I ran into a guy named Ben. I can't think of his name, but his name was Ben something, and he was a friend of Ken Hartford's, who is in the book. And Ben was a guy who helped Aldo around. He didn't have a car, he didn't have any money, and he was living at the Olive Inn or something on Olive, where Frank's Coffee Shop probably still is. This guy introduced us to him there. It was a handful to know Aldo. Hard to believe that he was married to Joanna Ray, one of the top casting directors in all of Hollywood. And as you know, the book kind of outlines the tumultuous and sometimes combative relationship that I had with Aldo. But it's funny. I drove him one time. This is not in the book. I drove him down to a cable access TV show called with a guy named, and his middle initial was E. Skip E. Lowe. Skip E. Lowe. And I think if you go on YouTube, you can see this show. Aldo was on the Skip E. Lowe show as an interview. And I took Aldo down there and waited for him. And so to be on this guy's show. And this is just during the period of time when I was working with him. And then years later, I brought Aldo out because I was a person who would, if I saw something like a set standing and they were going to tear it down tomorrow, I would try to run in tonight. I didn't have a movie. I would write something and shoot it, hoping that I could make a movie, come out of it later. And they had made that set for Deep Space for one night only. They made a laboratory set to kind of screw up the movie after the fact with some scientists or something to, and the Israelis wanted to make this scene to make it into a biological weapon, which it wasn't in the movie. It was just an alien. And so for one night, we had James Booth and Norman Burton and a bunch of other actors try to explain that it was some government weapon. And it was a $10,000 set built for a one-night shoot or one-day shoot. And they were going to tear it down. And it was unbelievable. And I said, I can't do it. It's $10,000. So Aldo was in town. I said, here's $1,000. Let's go get him and let's bring him down tonight. We'll shoot 7 pages with Richard Harrison and Jay Richardson, Don Wildsmith, and Aldo Ray. And I shot the opening of a movie that would be a remake of The Indestructible Man with Lon Chaney, where Aldo submits to some experiment. And if he lives, he can walk free. And if he dies, well, he was going to go to the chair. And he dies. And then, because he was never reliable to show up again, I thought he would, be drunk or on a bender. So I thought, okay, he dies in the opening scene. Then I make a mask that looks like Aldo but burned up, and we get a stuntman to play him for the rest of the movie. And I filmed it. And then, sure enough, he went on a bender. I never saw him again the rest of my life, and then he died. And I had the footage, and I cut the scene, but everybody was so tired, and it was so loopy, and everybody was drinking after the wrap of this movie. It came out almost like a comedy. And we never filmed the rest of it. It's the only movie I think I ever shot extra scene for that I didn't actually finish and make the movie. But, there's still time. I'm still alive, so.
Yep.
But there's a chance.
The transfer of Biohazard that's on Tubi is the remastered edition with the bloopers at the end.
Yes.
I don't want to spoil it for the viewers who haven't watched the film yet, but Aldo does forget his lines quite a few times, and you're quite stern with him. And I could hear budget, money, time.
You only got so much time, and there was a guy playing who was wearing a white lab coat. He was so bad that we finally just stopped shooting the off-camera dialogue. And we would have him do one line, and then we would read him his next line, and he would just repeat it. Then we would read him his next line, and he would just repeat it. We stopped feeding him the off-camera other actor's line because it was just, we're not going to get through it. So we would say, if his line was, and over here we have this, and then we would just say, and over here we have this, and he would just say it again. And we were renting Roger Corman's studios. Those were the sets from a movie with Vince Edwards called Space Raiders.
Oh,
And so we only, Roger, he liked me, but he didn't like me that much. So we were getting a pretty good price to use the Space Raiders. Some of them were from a movie called Android with Klaus Kinski. And so we were under the gun, trying to get these scenes done on the weekend and get out of there. And you got Aldo, who's on who's hungover, and you have this guy who can't remember his own name. And so it was tough, you know what I mean? And we're shooting on short end, so we're rolling out every 20, 30 seconds.
Right.
So it was, it was what it was. But we were shooting in 35 millimeters, so that was a first for us. And we had a Panavision camera that Panavision owned us, and so we were feeling pretty cocky. But we weren't going to get too big an ego with things going down the way they were,
That was fascinating to me because when I watched those bloopers over the end credits, I was like, this is like having insight into the making of the film, because I could hear you prompting the actors just so you could get an edit in. You were like, say it again, because I was like, oh, he didn't stop rolling, because he can just cut it and like use the good take.
It takes a while to get rolling again and then slating again and get them in their spot again. And what you learn is that every time you stop the camera, a makeup person wants to run in and touch them up again. They're called last looks. And the actor wants a last look. Every time the camera stops, the girl wants them to look at her again. So if you don't stop the camera, they don't run in. So you're better off to not stop if you don't have to. And there was a movie about World War II. Maybe it was called Empire of the Sun. And the little kid in the film could tell how bad the war was going, but how many weevils there were in the rice. How many bugs were in the rice each day. Could tell him how bad the war was going for the Japanese. You can tell how Biohazard was going by looking at the slate and the end credit bloopers. It starts out and you see a beautiful slate, Then it was a little crappier. By the time you got to one point, it's a piece of cardboard off the ground and 2 sticks we found laying in the dirt. They're 2 rough pieces of board at one point and a hand-drawn slate with some tape holding it together. So you can just see how the film was disintegrating from having money to now we're holding the slate together with some cardboard and some tape, and you can see how the war is going by looking at the slate, and you can look at the date, and you can see how here we are, and it's 1983. Now it's disintegrated. It's 1984, 8 months later, and now we're in late 84, and things are more desperate, and you can see how desperate the movie is by the condition of what we're trying to use as a slate to sync the sound up, how bad things are going, or how broke we are, really, as you watch the slate devolve during the course of the bloopers.
How long did it take altogether to shoot that film?
I don't think anybody knows. When we first started, we thought we had financing from this company, and we shot eight days, and then the money never came. And we had one guy who was paying our lab bill, and he was steady. But the crew was being paid by another guy, this Ken Hartford guy. And after 8 days, he disappeared. And now I have this crew and all these actors, and they're like looking at me, and this guy has disappeared. And fortunately, they didn't kill me. So I went on this search trying to find the money. Thank goodness this other guy who was a friend of mine was covering the lab. So Ken Hartford could not take the negative. So the negative was protected. So I went out looking for the money. Unfortunately, I ended up having to go to 21st Century, who had done scalps with us, to get the finishing funds. But once I got the finishing funds, then I went back at it, and I was able to get Aldo Ray and pay Angelique Pettyjohn and all these other people and get everybody caught up and finish making film. But that was almost, it was probably 8 months later, because Chris had pretty much started to really outgrow the monster suit. We were having to cut the suit up the back and put extensions in it, because he would put the legs on separately and put the arms on separately, and it was in pieces, and he wasn't fitting in it anymore. And there was only so much baby powder you could pour on that kid to try to get these pieces on. But it did get finished, and like I said, it wasn't the greatest film, but it had a lot of stuff going on in it. It had a lot of good, a lot of ideas. It not a great plot, but a lot of ideas, and a lot of things dropping on the people's faces and people firing guns, and it was at the height of the sort of VHS mania, and it led to The Tomb, which of course changed everything. So,
did Johnny Legend write the music for Biohazard?
No. The music,
I've read that, so I didn't know.
Well, the music was done by the same guys, Drew Newman and that other fellow who did Scalps. It was a great little score. Johnny Legend was a guy who was a friend of ours. Johnny, if you know him, he was the brother of Len Margulies. Len Margulies was married to Steve Barquette, and she was the star of the movie Aftermath. And then after her and Steve broke up, she became the wife of Andy Kaufman.
Oh.
And she was an editor, probably still a very famous editor. She was with Andy Kaufman until he passed away. And a fairly famous actress plays her in that movie, Man in the Moon. And that she's Johnny's sister. His name's actually Martin Margulies. That's Johnny's name. But he was a rockabilly performer, just kind of a crazy jack of all trades. But he had some great rockabilly music, and he's got some CDs. And I was very fond of his music, so I asked him if I could use a song from his album in the closing credits. And I used a song called Rockabilly Rumble, and I played it in the closing credits. And I used a song called Kick About Me, I think, by a guy named Jesse Hawkins, which is also a stage name. I'm trying to think of what the guy's real name is. He's credited in the film under his real name as a sound guy, but he was a protege of Donald G. Jackson, the guy who made Hell Comes to Frogtown. Yeah. And The Demon Lover, who was also a friend of mine, very strange character. Jesse Hawkins, Don had us use his 45, a movie song called Kick Around Me. I think that's what and it's playing on the headphones when the girl's in the bathtub and the curtains are pulled open. That's in Don Jackson's house. And so it's the garage where Chris comes down upside down and grabs Richard Hinch. That's Donald G. Jackson. That's his house, and that's his garage. And Don's the guy. He's with me in the kitchen. And I said to Don, Don, we should probably say the word biohazard somewhere in this movie. So I've always been big about that. Same in Moon and Scorpio. I came on that movie to fix it after Gary Graver had already filmed it. they hired me to come in and revamp the movie because they didn't like it. I said, someone should say the title of the movie because I don't understand why it's called Moon and Scorpio. And I said to Don, we should say the word biohazard somewhere in this movie. So Don says, okay. And so Don and I are the paramedics, and we're trying to revive this bloody guy in the kitchen. And Don, I think it's Don that says, it's not me. It was almost a joke. Don said, hey, don't touch that thing, biohazard. And then the guy stops breathing, and I tap Don on the shoulder and I go, hey. And we go, oh, and we start pumping the guy's heart. And this is back when we were so stupid. And I have this rule now because I'm so fucking old. Can I say that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm so old. I will not film at night anymore unless I absolutely have to. I used to film night scenes at night for real all night long, even if it was indoors. Now I would just black the windows. But back then, I'd really film at night, even if I didn't have to. I was too stupid to say, oh, hey, let's just put some black over the windows. But like when we're there on the floor and we're pumping that guy's heart and all that stuff, and that thing comes out of the container at the end, it's really 4 in the morning. It's really 3 o'clock in the morning. And I don't know why the hell we didn't think on Deep Space and these other movies, why it didn't occur to us just to black out the windows from the outside or black them from the inside and drop the curtains, which is what we would do now. No. We're there at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., filming all night because we were young and dumb and I guess boundless energy. But yeah,
The method filmmaking.
Well, the DPs would go, well, Fred, we'd like to put a little light out the window to get some moonlight coming in. This is biohazard, for God's sake. You know? I wouldn't do that on a Lifetime movie now. Screw that. I don't do that shit.
There's so many great stories like this one in this book. I can't wait to see the new version of it. Oh, you've got the proof. Excellent.
Ooh.
I love the cover.
This was a proof until I decided I wanted a hyphen between hell and bent. And then I redid the cover.
I worked on an earlier version of this book. I was the editor, so thank you for hiring me.
I could not have done it without you, and that's the truth.
Thank you.
Left
I really
my
appreciate
own
it.
devices. It would have been the biohazard of memoirs.
No, not at all. I think what I like about it, and what a lot of readers will probably like about it, is that it's not just stories like the ones you just told. It's about the Fred we don't see. The single dad who had Chris in the monster suit on the set.
Yes.
You know, and he came up right along with you. And you know, a lot of people don't know that.
I didn't want a book that said, and then I made this film. And then you go about, and then I made this film. Obviously I made this film. I made this book coming out of a two-time flatline hospital nightmare, waking up out of a coma on Christmas Eve. And then a few months later, considering how lucky I was just to be alive. Anybody who wanted to could write a book about the films I made, and it would write itself. I made so many films. If you wrote 2 pages about every film I ever made, you'd have yourself a pretty thick book. But as I was writing this, I realized, you know, there's a lot of people who want to be directors, who want to make films. And you kind of go and they struggle, they don't know how it goes and they don't know how it happens. And as I was going through there, you can see how you can go from, as I was originally going to call this, as you know, from the unemployment line to the Emmys. I stood in the unemployment line for the first time in my life when I went to California. I didn't know what it was like because in Orlando, I was a television engineer at a TV station and I worked a second job in a video lab. And when I went to California, I had a 4-year-old child, no car, no wife, and I was in the unemployment line. And the unemployment office was on Magnolia Boulevard at Lancashire. And I was standing in the unemployment line, and in front of me was a guy. This was back when you had to have the walk of shame. You had to show up in person and stand in line with your paper in your hand. And I just standing there, because you're there for 20, 30, 40 minutes, I couldn't help but look over the shoulder of the guy in front of me. It was Wyatt Ordung, the director, writer of Monster from the Ocean Floor and Robot Monster. Mm-hmm. And I went, oh my God, it's Wyatt Ordung. I really wanted to say, oh my God, Mr. Ordung. And I thought, he's probably as embarrassed standing there as I am. I said, I think I'll let this one go. And where I was standing in the unemployment office on Magnolia at Lancashire, that building was torn down, and that's where the Television Academy is today. The same Television Academy that gave me an Emmy years ago.
That's
And I
fantastic.
said, that's how
awesome.
it works out. That's how it works out. And
Yeah.
I rode the bus and I ate hamburger helper without any hamburger in it, trying to feed a 4-year-old kid on unemployment benefits and working and telephone and working. And, you know, I showed up in Los Angeles having made nothing more than, as you know, The Alien Dead for $12,000, which at that point was a complete flop. Had not made a dime, had not made a sale, was sitting in the closet. I showed up in November of 1981. By November of 1983, Scalps was playing in theaters across America. And it was in all of these theaters. And I was standing still at a factory machine for $7 an hour. And that's pathetic. But if you read this book, it'll show you how I managed to get from here to here to here to here. And by 1985, I had a 100 theater opening in New York City.
Yeah.
I went to New York City and I had a poster in every subway. I had hundreds of posters and billboards and was playing in 100 theaters within 4 years of getting off the bus. So I think it's inspirational.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you really can go from near poverty to getting what you want.
And then there's the later period in the book where you do your wrestling. And Sam is also a wrestler.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Again, it's not for everybody. I watched The Dark Side of the Ring the other night, and because I saw Abdullah the Butcher. And I wrestled, if you can call wrestling Abdullah the Butcher wrestling. That was the longest 20 minutes of my life. And I mean, very little of it was in the ring. And I went out the ring. I went into the audience. I went out through this double doors into a parking lot, onto a car, back in. And if you've wrestled him or worked with him, however you want to view it, it was insane. And then the next thing I heard, a guy had gotten hepatitis C.
Yeah.
From a match with Abdullah.
Ooh.
And this was a few years after that. I mean, I wrestled him much earlier than that. But it sent me scrambling for my doctor. I mean, I didn't have that problem. It was an interesting. I don't address that in my book, but I do talk about working with him and Terry Funk and all those guys. And you know, I saw a video of Honky Tonk Man the other night, and you know, I lost to him the Halloween Havoc years ago, and I think I saw him the other night, and I said, you know, this time I think I could take him. Now I could take him. I lost at Halloween Havoc, but in San Jose, but now I think I got him.
Terry Funk's a big guy to wrestle. I've only drank with him. I never got to wrestle.
You know, I spent a lot of time tag teaming with him, and I finally said I want to wrestle against him. So I did like a 3-way hardcore because I wanted the spinning toe hold.
Yeah.
I wanted all that. I'd always been on the good side. I wrestled Hector Guerrero and a bunch of other guys, Mondo Guerreros, and I can't think of the other guys. But the spinning toe hold wasn't shit. I could take that all day long. But you know, he hit you. He was like, I think he was left-handed, and he hit you, but he never missed. 4 shots to the face in a row. And I said, do you think you could miss once? He never missed.
His brother trained me. Dory trained me. Mm-hmm. And I said to him, will you teach me how Terry throws such great punches? And he goes, well, if you make it for a couple of weeks, I'll teach you. Yeah. And he said to me, he's like, yeah, they're all real. He's like, just.
That's how he does it. They all connect. Every one of them connects.
He taught me how to do the uppercut too. And Dory was, you know, he's in
the French uppercut.
Yeah, and he was like in his 70s when he taught me. He knocked me on my ass with it because Carino told me, he's like, ask him what it's like, you know, and he'll teach it to you. And by teaching, I mean, he just hit me with like 20 of them. And he's like, okay, now you figure it out. Okay.
Yeah. That was Terry's big thing. I mean, right in the middle of the match, I kind of said quietly, do you think you could miss once? But what are you going to do?
Yeah. It probably looked awesome though when you go back and watch it. Like, wow, those punches are great.
I know.
Are any of those matches filmed or on home video or anything like that?
You know, I have the later ones. I had some on tape. I put together for my kids because my kids weren't around or they were way too little when I was working. So later, when they became sort of like into Randy Orton and stuff, I put together 2 minutes of some stuff from later in California, and it's on. I think it's on YouTube. It says it's called Everything You Want to Know About Freddie Valentine in 2 minutes, and it's whatever tapes that we had from around 1990 to 1998. It's just a 2-minute clip with some music. And it's got some bits. It's got some bits with Abdullah and maybe some stuff with Terry and a guy called the Pitbull. And I don't remember who all's in there. Mondo Guerrero's in. There's some barbed wire ring stuff, a lot of exploding stuff, because that was the time when everything seemed to blow up. You know? And I had an alligator in the ring one time and a rattlesnake, 2 rattlesnakes. And I said, that, you know, you keep saying all the things you wouldn't do again. And the alligator I would do again. The rattlesnakes, the Eastern Diamondbacks, putting my hand in that cage. I don't know what the hell I was thinking. I think that's the name of the chapter. What the hell was I thinking?
It is the name of the
I
chapter.
was the only one who would do it. And I was like, what was I thinking? And everything was okay until I saw the video later and I saw this, the biggest of the boa constrictor sized Eastern Diamondback rattlesnake lunging at me in that cage. And I thought, what the fuck was I thinking? I mean, Jesus Christ. Oh, well.
Right on, Fred Olen Ray on our show. It's just amazing watching that and just hearing him rattle off this stuff.
Yeah, really, really awesome. So I posted the video too of his wrestling stuff. I watched it right after we talked. And it's a lot of fun. There is a lot of explosions. So pretty exciting.
So many explosions.
Yeah.
I went and watched it too. And I was like, yeah, now I know what he was talking about. Explosions. Like what the fuck was that stuff that was blowing up?
There's a company in Japan, Frontier Martial Arts Wrestling. That was my dream company to wrestle for. I got to wrestle for their sister, the promotion they did after, and all their matches had barbed wire and then bombs on the ropes. So when you hit the ropes, it would blow up. And I was like, man, I wanted
for their sister
company. It was like the second company. I wrestled for Wrestling Marvelous Futures. It was FMW backwards, WMF. And then the best company I wrestled for in Japan was called Fighting Ultimate Crazy Kings, and DDT. Those are the 3, and 666. Those are the 4 companies that I worked for. But yeah, I always wanted to do those explosion matches. I thought it was the awesomest stuff. I'm also an idiot, so you know, like what I just jump into.
I'm kind of glad you didn't.
I love it. I would totally do it. So
yeah, I love the wrestling video because it was just so compact and it showed so much in only 2 minutes. Well worth a view or two. Yeah.
There's
something about Fred that, you know, maybe, I don't know, I feel like maybe I should wait till the second segment to say this, but I'm going to say it now anyway. Fred really did come a long way from his beginnings, which was, you know, he even said himself that, you know, he didn't really know what he was doing when he made The Alien Dead, which I think was his first film. And, you know, I get the feeling sometimes that because he came so far and now he's doing like, you know, Emmy Award winning work on TV, that maybe he doesn't look, I don't know, like I hope he looks back on those films and is happy that he made those movies. Because I get the feeling that he refers to his early work with the same he judges it against the same standards, you know, as something that had a bigger budget. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but
no, I know what you're saying.
I hope he's proud of it.
Yeah, I would hope that he's proud of it too, because every step of the way that you do, you know, of course your first couple films aren't going to be as good. You don't, you haven't yet figured out how to direct or how to get people to, you know what I mean? Like how to get a crew together, or, you know, there's a lot of stuff that you learn along the way. That's why I think his early movies are still fun. Because sometimes there's a rawness to your first movies and like almost an enthusiasm to them where maybe you don't have that. Like I remember, it's like your first couple ones, you're like, man, like it was amazing we even got to make this movie. And then later it's just like, okay, now it's become my job.
It has the qualities that we like in a film, and maybe that's what some people don't understand that make movies and then go on to better things. That those are the qualities that I'm attracted to in a film, is that it looks super low budget. It's really weird. It's way out there. It's taking place in some weird alternate universe. that we can only see through this film. Those are the kind of movies that get me excited, and I hope that the people that make them don't look back on it and say, "Oh, that movie was terrible." A couple of times he says that, "Oh, that movie was terrible."
I don't.
But
I watched a
I
movie this week that people almost universally think is terrible, and I loved it. And I was like, "This movie's," and I'd never seen it. I'm like, "This movie's great." Like it hits like there's something about like a movie that is like a mess that like I just fall in love with, and I'm like, I just love that this even
yeah.
exists, and that it came together, and that somehow we found it.
See, I think that's something special. That's something that a movie that's like carefully planned out and budgeted, and it's a big production. There's so much that is just regimented in a production like that, that it loses the quality of the weird disjointed quality that low budget independent films can have.
Well, I think too, it's like when you see a Hollywood movie, the crew behind the camera, you have a DP, you probably have a focus, well, in the old film days, a focus puller, and like you have a second unit, you have all these folks where it's like, yeah, you can still screw the movie up, but on a lot of the regional stuff that we love, the DP or the cinematographer is the same person, and the cameraman, they're all the director. You know what I mean? And that director might be doing 6 or 7 other jobs. So like it's a miracle if it looks great. And versus like having like a whole crew to do it.
Sure, yeah.
So, but I
Yeah, and I think sometimes it does look great. Like the movie we're going to watch tonight, Biohazard. Um, I really kind of like the stuff that he got on camera in this movie. He talks about not putting moonlight through the window
yeah,
in the scenes. It is low budget, and you can tell, but it has like a strange claustrophobic and phony element to it that
yeah.
I really dig. I like that kind of stuff.
We talk about it all the time with Eaten Alive. It's probably why we like that movie so much, because it's all sound staged, and
Yeah.
it's just like it creates its own world. And I think in a lot of his early movies he did that, where it's like these aren't on location and they're in these strange places. I like you mentioned whenever you were putting the trailer together, like this feels like Replicator a lot, and that's probably why I like that movie a lot too, where they're like these weird, like they're obviously in an office building that they've converted somewhat into being a sci-fi building, but who cares? Like I hate when people. The worst to me is when someone just talks down on it. They're like, "Well, that's stupid. Like that couldn't happen. That's stupid." Like I don't want things that can happen in my movies. Like I
Yeah.
want movies like this where people put on old football helmets or mental things that allow gorgeous women to contact aliens, and I don't know. It's crazy. It's so much fun. I found Bill, before we get in, I found some alt titles for this movie, and I'm really excited by them. Uh, Obviously, in the U.S., it was only called Biohazard, but it was called Gremlins de Espacio in Mexico, which is Space Gremlins, which is an awesome title for a movie. I think we can all agree. And,
That's
yeah,
wild.
and Alien 3 Leaga de Terre, Mission to Earth, Alien 3, and that was in Spain, and it was also called
Wow.
Experimento Secreto, like secret experiment, which is uh,
So I guess you could watch Alien. You could watch Alien
yeah,
2, Sulla
mhm,
Terra, and then you could watch Biohazard, Alien 3.
yeah.
There you go.
I mean, if that's your Alien universe, I would argue that maybe you're doing better than some of the later Alien films.
Definitely.
Do Does Alien 3 have a bowling alley scene? No. Okay, cool.
If it did have a bowling alley scene, maybe people would have
Liked
related
it a
to it a
little
little
more.
bit. People
Yeah.
hated that movie. I didn't hate Alien 3 when it came out. This is
Mhm.
like really sketchy territory because Alien is such a huge movie, and like the fans get really defensive
Yeah.
if you say anything bad about their favorite Alien movie. But I didn't really hate Alien 3 when it came out, but I couldn't believe that they killed Newt and X.
I walked out.
No.
I was so because like that's Aliens at the time. Aliens was like one of my favorite movies. So
Yeah.
like having like that's the whole movie is about Newt and saving her, and it's like cool. We just wasted all our time. getting excited about that movie. And here's where we are. And I realize now that I'm older, I'm like, oh, that's a major overreaction to to something. Maybe I should just sit back and enjoy it. I've grown up a little bit. The other thing I wanted to mention about this movie is Carol Borland's in it, Bill, who was Count Mora from Mark of the Vampire, Dracula's daughter. And the look of female vampires is kind of like based on her. So that's kind of rad. She's in this. She's not
Yeah.
playing a vampire.
Why, Fred? Why was she not a vampire?
She was a professor too in her life when she wasn't acting, which is kind of cool. So she's also in. The last thing she was in was Flash Gordon serial in 1936, before appearing in 2 Fred Olen Ray movies. She's in Scalps and she's in Biohazard. So that's pretty cool.
Far out.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed his stories about older actors and getting them and running into people in Hollywood. It's like it really comes across when we spoke to him that maybe he doesn't respect his older movies, but a lot of the people like that did movies like they are a big deal to him. Like where it's just like Robot Monster might not be a big deal to normal folks, but to him it's a big deal. You know what I mean? And it is to me. So I think that stuff's pretty cool.
Hey, you want to do the drink segment?
I'm ready.
All right, let's do it.
Welcome to Biohazard. This week we have Fred Olen Ray on. Fred was drinking a martini while he was talking to us, and I was really thirsty, and I thought, should I make a martini? And I said, it's not green. These drinks all have to be green. Anyways, here's what we got here. We got 2 ounces of Absolute Citron, 1 ounce of Midori, 1 ounce of Triple Sec, and as much Gatorade as you'd like. If you don't like Gatorade, I don't know what's wrong with you. If you don't like Gatorade, you can use Sprite or 7-Up, any lemon lime drink, or Mountain Dew. I've already done a couple Mountain Dew drinks, so it's hot out. It's real hot. I think 100 degrees more with the heat.
4,000 degrees outside.
Yeah, you can just see it. The world's on fire. So Gatorade's probably the best thing for you because this is going to dehydrate you. This is going to rehydrate you. It's a biohazard. Anyways, let's pour this in together. There we go. We're going to shake it up. But first, we're not going to get sticky. We're going to seal that up. All right, shake it up nice and. So you want to make this one really cold. You might want to put this in the freezer for a bit when you're done too, so that way when you're out working on the yard or whatever's going to bring you outside in the fire, which you can cool off with a nice crisp biohazard. Look at that. You can bring the dead to life with that. It's a super green drink. I'm excited about it. But you know what's important about a drink? What's it taste like? Pazuzu. Let's see. It smells great. I think you could probably use a little more sugar if you're going to make this because Gatorade Zero doesn't have much sugar. So if you're going to use a sugar-based drink. But you know what? Who cares? It's a biohazard. Pazuzu.
I knew that was going to catch me unaware.
Yeah.
The ending of the video.
I forgot to
Look,
mention.
I'm on brand.
You are? Oh, wow, you did it? Awesome.
I made the drink.
Let me know what you
I
think
got
of
it
it.
in a tongue and lips logo glass, man. We made it for the Sticky Fingers tour.
I'm excited to see what you think.
I love it.
Awesome. I use Gatorade
really
because
glad
it's
I
from
did.
Florida, just like Fred. I forgot to mention that. It was the
Gator.
created for the Florida Gators. My other Gatorade fact is, Bill, the guy who created Gatorade, when he sold the rights of it to Stokey Camp, the original company that bought it, he kept the formula and tried to resell it to Iron City Brewing. And they literally made a beer that combined Icy Light, this is in Pittsburgh, Iron City Light, Icy Light with Gatorade called Hoppin' Gator. And it had foam on top, and it literally tasted like green Gatorade mixed with beer. Obviously, this did not last that long. He was sued. I don't think anybody wanted it. I do. I would drink it. But I also drink very weird things. I'm also drinking, I keep trying to get sponsored, but drinking a Liquid Death Blueberry Buzzsaw tonight. holy cow, it's awesome. So please sponsor us. Anyways,
This is delicious.
thank you. It's a hydrator and a dehydrator in one.
It's a gator and a replicator.
It's
And-
replicator, yeah. I
and a
should have called it
hazard and a
Space Gremlin. I
biohazard.
was going to call it Space Gremlin because I love that title. That feels like a title someone should use. You know what I saw last night? Speaking of Space Gremlins, Bill, I was at the Exchange, and they had a Ghoulies
Ooh.
life-size Ghoulies figures they were $200 each, and I really want to get one for the basement when it's done, and just take the old toilets and putting a new one in, and just have the Ghoulies head coming out of the toilet. My wife looked at me and she said, "It's $200." I'm like, "Yeah, but it's a Ghoulie." So, oh well.
It probably costs more than the toilet.
Yeah, the toilet was like $130 for a new toilet. Man, basement's coming along, though. I tore the entire roof out this week and all the walls down. And now it's just down to the studs. And tomorrow morning there's someone coming at 8:30, so that'll be a lot of fun. When I stay up till 5 doing the show. And we're gonna do some wiring, and then I'm gonna put on a hazmat suit and pull out the asbestos tile, and then finally they're gonna put a drain in, blah blah blah. Movie room will be back. I'm actually gonna make a wall so it can be a studio when I'm down there. I won't be farmhouse in it anymore. It'll look good. I asked if I could have a fog
Farmhouse
machine, but, we'll see. I don't know if you saw in the drink video though, the pool's open, Bill. So pretty exciting.
Are you going to finally commit to doing this show from your house, from your pool?
Yes, I'm committing. I almost did it tonight to surprise you, but I didn't. I have one question for you about this movie before we begin. Were you let down that Evan Seinfeld wasn't in it?
No. I got enough of him in Oz. You got all of them in
I've been
Oz.
saving that all week. I wanted to ask you, so
I have this friend that he's one of those guys that, like, you tell him that you're hot for a celebrity. He's like, oh, he's gay. He's gay. And he told me that Evan Seinfeld was gay. And I was like, I don't think he's gay. He's like, no, he is. I mean, he goes to the bear bars in New York. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, maybe, but I don't think so. No, it wasn't true.
no.
My hopes were dashed forever.
Oh, sadness. Let us know. Let us know in the chat too what your favorite Fred Olen Ray movie is, and if you've seen Biohazard before. So.
Yeah, let us know if this is the first. Are you a Biohazard virgin?
Yeah.
And this movie is like, it did play theatrically.
Mm-hmm.
Fred has a picture of it playing in a grindhouse in New York City, but this was sort of like best remembered as a video film, I think, and because there were several VHS releases, and I can't remember if I rented this back in the day. I probably did if I had the chance, because it looked really like, alienish.
Yeah.
From the
and I know how much you love Alien. You're like Alien ripoffs, kind of like how I feel about Exorcist ripoffs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I do love a good Exorcist ripoff, Bill.
Well, I don't know. Maybe Exorcist ripoffs are better than Alien ripoffs.
They're easier to make because you don't have to have the suit, right? Like a Sinjanor suit or something like that,
I think they're just, oh, well, yeah, the Sinjanor suit, that is beautiful.
I love Sinjanor.
Really beautiful. But, usually the Alien ripoffs did not have special effects that could even compare. So,
Yeah. Sometimes they just have green pods that go meow, meow, and then they blow up in your face.
Yeah, gooey green footballs.
Yeah, gooey green footballs. So it just depends on the one you get.
They got in the garbage in that movie.
Yeah.
Contamination.
I love Contamination.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably is that my favorite Aliens ripoff? It's up there. Galaxy of Terror is probably my favorite one.
Yeah, although that really didn't have enough. It was Alien-ish, but it was much more elaborate than Alien, I think.
Yeah, It's almost
In that
like
manner.
a weird. It's even more like if Alien's a haunted house movie in space, that one goes all the way. Like, no, this is really a haunted house movie in space. It
It's a
it really
haunted funhouse in space.
it is, and they're like, what if Joni got killed horribly?
I was most concerned for her.
Oh
I fell right into their trap because obviously that's what they were hoping everybody would think. Oh,
yeah,
Joni's going to survive. And
certainly
she
they won't
didn't.
kill one of America's sweethearts, and they're like, yeah, we will, no problem. Yeah, I agree. Mike said it's like a proto Event Horizon more than an alien flick. I agree. I do have to say, Bill, back to the pool. The pool is so hot. It is like bath water. Like we got in, and usually the first time, a couple times you're in of the year, it's freezing and stuff. It is so hot. It's so hot that Cubby got in the pool and he didn't shake. So Cubby swam tonight and swam around the pool. Then he got out and shat all over the deck. So he christened the
Oh,
deck, of course.
exactly.
Yeah. So,
Enough
but
said. Did you jump out with a bottle of bleach?
I did. Yeah. I did clean it with bleach tonight. Yeah. So I set it on fire. I set the whole deck on fire. Fuck it. I'm just kidding. Thanks
Well, I
everybody
hope
for
you
coming.
filmed it.
Yeah, thanks everybody for coming out tonight and watching. We had a pretty full room, so I appreciate it. And come back because the second part of the interview is just as good, if not better. And yeah, watch
Yeah.
Biohazard. I think people are gonna dig it. I really love it. So hopefully you will.
The conversation played out very much like one of our programs because there was alcohol involved.
Yeah.
And by the time we got to the end of the interview, things were kind of going off the rails in a wonderful sort of way. So
Yeah.
expect what you normally get on this program in the second segment.
Yeah.
Delirious, drunken non-tent.
Yeah. Non-tent. We just need a shirt that says drive-in non-tent. What was the name? The Auto Theater Sanitarium. That's my new spinoff.
Oh, right. I heard about that.
Yeah.
It's going to be this magazine, and it's full of ads from the newspaper.
Yeah.
And, that's kind of the look of it. And then there's, articles in it, and there's going to be stuff, well, you'll love it.
You'll love it. We're going to use the skull from Tales from the Crypt for the logo.
Yeah. And it'll be in Entertainment Weekly.
It will be.
People will write about it. There'll be a review of it on USA Today saying, hey, go buy this book. Auto View Theater Sanitarium.
Yeah. And I'll be looking forward to your new podcast, Sons and Daughters of Darkness, with Sam and Bill.
It's coming.
Yeah.
Sam and Bill.
Sam and Bill. These are all inside jokes that Bill and I say to each other all the time. And
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Now we say them live.
All right. So I forgot to post the link, by the way.
It's on Tubi if you want to watch it on Tubi.
Just go watch it. It's Biohazard from 1985 on Tubi. And we can't get any more explicit about that than that.
It's not the Biohazard with Julia Roberts in it.
No.
That's not true.
Not the one with Sam Waterston.
No, not the one. Not the Disney one. Yeah.
It's the one that has Aldo Ray in it.
And Angelique Pettyjohn from a Star Trek episode.
Angelique Pettyjohn has the biggest eyes I've ever seen.
Yeah. It's we are playing a lot of Florida movies this year. I shouldn't said that. That is true. That sounds Tubi loading up in the background, so enjoy the movie, guys.